Welcome back to Real Estate 101. Today we're going to continue our discussion on home insurance, and I'm pleased to be joined once again by Robert Atto of Atto Associates. Robert, welcome back to the show.
Joe, thanks for having me back again.
All right, Robert, so we're starting to get into the summer months now and the seasonal stuff, and I wanted to talk to you today about some of the seasonal coverage that people sometimes need. So my first question would be, if you own a boat or a Seadoo, do you need to have insurance coverage for those?
As we touched on a little bit before, there's a minor coverage in your homeowner's policy, but most of your homeowner's policy will exclude boats in excess of 26 feet in length or horsepower in excess of 15. So you can see this one covering the majority of boats. A lot of people think also that the boat may not be worth a lot. It might be worth only $3,000 or $4,000, but we really have to be worried about, in addition to the cost or loss or damage to the boat, is the liability aspect. You're out there on the water, there's people skiing, swimming all the time, and this could be a financial hardship to you if you're not properly covered. So it's something definitely you should give us a call and we'll walk you through it.
All right, so to touch on another season, it's for the winter. What about all-terrain vehicles and snowmobiles? Do you need insurance for that?
Well, here again, because a lot of times all-terrain vehicles and snowmobiles, people are using, or they believe they're using off-road a lot of the times, but quite simply they're required to have a plate, most of them, and they must have insurance. So just like an Audi, it's mandatory coverage that you must purchase. A lot of times as well, you might be allowing a youth under the age of 16, you need to get a specialty endorsement to make sure you're properly covered for it. I mean, the injury possibilities, of course, and the use of these type of machineries is staggering. So you need to really get coverage for this. There's not a lot of costs involved, and you'll be glad you did, as always.
All right, so you know, because you're talking about injuries, let's talk a little bit about life insurance. Do you think it's a must for everybody to have life insurance?
Well, I think it's, especially when you're young, you're growing up, you're building your family, you have a lot to lose. I mean, the worst thing that would happen is if you're the primary caregiver and you were to unfortunately pass away, you'll leave your family with undue hardship, not only the passing of you, but the loss of income that they could probably never recover from, and who wants to leave their family in that position? So it's something you should highly consider. I'm not going to get into it a lot, but when you look at life insurance or term insurance that protects you, as opposed to a lot of people when we're talking about mortgage insurance reduces as your cost on your mortgage reduces, where when you purchase a life or term policy, that'll stay the same, or it could increase with inflation depending on the type of policy you purchase. So it's one of the most important things you should consider purchasing.
Okay, so let's say you own a seasonal business, some sort of, you do landscaping or snow plowing. Do you need, and obviously you need insurance for that. What kind of insurance would you need?
Well, here's something that's done by somebody obviously on a seasonal basis. You might have a contractor that works all summer and they need something to do in the winter, so they'll do some snow plowing. They probably own a pickup anyway, so they're just throwing a plow in the front, but you have to remember that as opposed to maybe using your vehicle on a personal basis, is obviously now used for business. It's strictly excluded on your policy. And most of the time, actually, the cost to get the proper business insurance may be the same or lower, very similar cost anyways. So just make sure you get the proper costs. As well, make sure that if you're doing something like lawn cutting in the summer, things could happen. A rock could fly off your lawnmower and seriously injure somebody else or go through a window. You could damage a lot of property with a lawnmower unintentionally, and the average individual is probably only looking at $500 or $750. I know that can be a little tough sometimes when you're doing a seasonal operation, but think of the consequences if you don't purchase it. So these are all things you should consider when you're doing, or if your child is doing it, because you may be responsible for something they're doing as well. So if you have any questions, another thing, give us a call, and that's what we're here for, to walk you through it.
Okay, Robert, so let's talk about something else that falls into the seasonal category. Many Canadians every year, even now, everybody goes down south to hot exotic places. Do they need travel insurance?
Well, I mean, absolutely you need travel insurance. It's the last thing you want to think about. You're going away on vacation and you're going to get sick or ill, and what's going to happen. A lot of people think that the Ontario government under the Hood plan would take care of that, when that is absolutely not the case. I mean, they'll pay a similar type cost in Ontario, where if you're going to US a similar type of operation might be worth 3-4 times, as well as you might want to get loved ones there while you're getting an operation, or what about the cost of getting you back after an operation? These are all costs that could be staggering. We're talking about $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. And quite simply the cost of a travel insurance policy. I mean, if you're young, you could be as low as $20 or $30 for, a 30-day policy as well. A lot of home policies now you can add on travel insurance as part of your home policy. You just kind of pay that annually, so if you're good going. A lot of people, when you live in the Golden Horseshoe area, like to pop over, the border, and it only takes 2 minutes for something to happen, and that could be devastating for you and your family. So, get it. I mean, the cost is very low. There's a lot of things that you need to be careful about as far as pre-existing medical conditions you may have. But once again, call your travel agent or give us a call, and we'll walk you through these.
All right. So, what about motorcycles and mopeds? We're going to start to see a lot of it now. We're in April, and people are going to start to come out with their toys for the summer. How do those coverages work?
Well, there's a new thing coming out too, I guess. We have these bicycles with motors on them too, and a lot of people think they may or may not be covered. A lot of policies may cover them or may not. You see a lot of people driving around with small mopeds, and they think there's coverage for that, and really a lot of your standard home policies would not cover, as we're going into the boats in excess of 25 horsepower. There's strict liability exclusions with regards to these type of vehicles. So once again, make sure that you go out and get a policy for these. And remember too that the premium they're charging you is normally based on the fact they know it's a seasonal. So these are something you want to keep all year round. There's no point canceling in the winter because they're not going to give you any money back anyways.
You're not going to get a break. Yeah.
So you might as well purchase a 1-year policy, and sometimes the more coverage you combine, you'll find it's the same price or a little bit more compared to what may happen if you don't purchase coverage at all. And remember, most motorized vehicles, especially ones that are bladed, are required to be insured by law. So you're contradicting breaking law as well as putting yourself in a financial hardship possibly. So some things to think about. A lot of people just don't think about it. They just get on, especially with some of these small motorized bike. Is it a moped? Is it a bike? Instead of wondering, just give us a call.
Okay, so let's say you live in a large piece of land and you have a lawnmower or tractor to cut your grass. Do you need a coverage on those?
Well, here's another thing. Most people, I guess, in the city wouldn't even think about it because they only have a small lawnmower. But when you get into the bigger properties, as we're speaking about in small business policies, that a lot of these larger type of tractors and even a plow on the front of your tractors for the winter plowing is not covered. These are coverages you really have to add to your policy. I believe the standard homeowners policy covers lawnmowers up to 25 horsepower, but that could vary to company, so it's something that you should really consider. The basic policy will cover your lawnmower. There will be a limit on the physical damage, and these things in some areas can be popular still too. Kids love to ride them around, so once again, be careful and just make sure. You're just talking about dollars worth of insurance cost compared to tens of thousands of dollars in physical damage. Sometimes these lawnmowers can get up there, especially the larger ones. And most people think they might, since they're not doing any farming, it's really not farming. They're just cutting the grass, and that it should be automatically covered without thinking about it. So, once again, just better to ask and be sure that you're covered than find out you're not later.
All right, Robert. So let me ask you another question. What about for people that they specialize or they like to do sports or physical activities or anything that maybe puts them at risk? Do they need a separate coverage, or can they even get something separately? Like if it's something seasonal, they're swimmers or.
Well, most of the time, this is a difficult thing. There's not a lot of companies that provide type of coverage for athletes. There's specialty companies, and really who you need to look to is within your own association to try to provide that coverage. It's another important thing that you should consider too with travel insurance, that if you're going to do something that is probably considered dangerous or potentially, life-threatening, I'm going to call it, parachuting or parasailing, maybe even, I don't know, jumping with sharks, swimming with the sharks. They have stranger things nowadays. But a lot of these type of sports are actually excluded, and sports as well. If you're going to play hockey, your travel insurance really isn't designed for injuries involving the sport. So you got to be careful that you think maybe you're going away with the baseball team. If you get injured, you're going to be covered, but you better make sure, because this is not a standard thing that they're looking that everybody will get into when they're traveling. So I mean, the one thing we love to do is obviously do different things when we're traveling, but you really have to consider how dangerous what you're doing is, and do I have any coverage for this? And just be aware of the dangers that you can get into. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of exotic stuff up there, and but you'll think even if you're covered on travel insurance, you might not be for that. So once again, give us a call, tell us what you're doing, and we can guide you, and we can even help you if we don't know. Try to get in contact with your association to try to get you coverage while you're away. I mean, there's a lot of people that play baseball and go out to different countries, or hockey, and but it's something that you should be aware of for sure.
All right, Robert, any last tips for viewers of our show that may need seasonal insurance coverage?
I think just going with the topic here, we're talking about a lot of stuff that we only do maybe once or twice a year, and the last thing we think about is insurance or what may happen. So I just trying to remind here everybody that think about the possibilities. If you have any questions or concerns at all, that's why we're here. You give us a call. We'll make sure you're protected and your family isn't put in harm.
All right, Robert, good stuff. Thanks for coming on today's show, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next month, and we're going to talk a little bit about some business insurance.
Thanks for having me back again today, Joe.
If you're looking for an insurance quote, get in contact with Robert Atto of Atto Associates. I'm your host, Joe Terceira. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.